Hello, welcome to the news channel about the Green Bay Packers. Here you will find out everything that happens with the Packers. So, subscribe and give it a like. The Green Bay Packers have 64 players under contract as of Monday, April 3rd, according to Over the Cap. Note, there is a discrepancy. Safety Vernon Scott is listed as under contract at OTC but is not listed on the Packers' current roster. Teams can roster 90 players during the off-season and into training camp, so the Packers will, at various points, add 27 players between now and late July. How does the roster look with most of free agency in the rearview mirror and the draft now only weeks away? Where is help required? Here's a look at the roster, position by position, after 3 weeks of free agency and with the draft 3 weeks out. Quarterback, 3. On the roster, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Danny Etling. Unsigned, none. Once Rodgers is traded to the New York Jets, only Love and Etling will remain. Love has one career start. Etling has never appeared in an NFL regular season game. The Packers need help here, either in the form of a veteran who can back up Love as the number 2 or a rookie who can overtake Etling. A veteran would be best here, but the Packers have to be cost-conscious and the options available are dwindling. Running back, 4. On the roster, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Patrick Taylor, Tyler Goodson. Unsigned, none. Jones' cap number balloons to over $17 million in 2024, so it's possible he's about to enter his final season in Green Bay. Dillon is going into the final year of his rookie deal. Although the Packers like Taylor and Goodson, a draft pick here makes a lot of sense to provide long-term stability. Wide receiver, 5. On the roster, Christian Watson, Romeo Dew, Samori Toure, Jeff Cotton, Bo Melton. Lost, Alan Lazard. Unsigned, Randall Cobb. The need here is obvious. The Packers would like to add a veteran, which is understandable given the near-complete lack of collective experience of the 5 receivers on the roster. This group also needs a draft pick or 2 to add to the overall talent base. The Packers like to bring at least 9 or 10 receivers to camp, so several additions will be made. While Watson and Dew provide a strong foundation, this important position group looks undeniably shaky at this point in the offseason. Tight end, 4. On the roster, Josiah DeGuara, Tyler Davis, Austin Allen, Nick Guggemos. Lost, Robert Tonyan. Unsigned, Mercedes Lewis. The rebuild is on. While DeGuara and Davis return from last year's 53-man roster, neither should be expected to be a full-time player. In reality, the Packers probably need at least 1 veteran and 2 talented draft picks to restock this position. As it stands right now, no team in football has a worse collection of tight ends. Offensive line, 13. On the roster, David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, John Runyon Jr., Josh Myers, Josh Nijman, Zach Tom, Royce Newman, Jake Hansen, Sean Ryan, Rashid Walker, Caleb Jones, Luke Tenuta, Gene DeLance. Unsigned, none. Arguably the most stable and well-stocked position on the roster. All 5 preferred starters from last season return, as well as the team's preferred depth options. Although Bakhtiari's future past 2023 is unclear, the Packers have capable options behind him and developmental players at offensive tackle. There's a good mix of experience and youth here, but the Packers have drafted at least 1 offensive lineman every year except for 1 over the past quarter century. Expect the trend to continue. Defensive line, 5. On the roster, Kenny Clark, T.J. Slaton, Devontae Wyatt, Chris Slayton, Jonathan Ford. Lost, Dean Lowry, Jarran Reed. Lowry and Reed left in free agency, opening up over 1,000 snaps along the defensive line. Slayton and Wyatt will assume many of the leftovers, but depth is desperately required here. Only 3 players on the roster at defensive line have any NFL experience. Can the Packers find a cheap veteran and a rookie who can contribute right away? 2 or 3, or more, additions are required before camp. Edge rusher, 6. On the roster, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kingsley Enagbare, Justin Hollins, Ladarius Hamilton, Jonathan Garvin. Unsigned, none. All 6 of the Packers' edge rushers have NFL experience. There is a short-term worry, Gary's recovery from ACL injury, and long-term concern, Smith turns 31 in November, but the position is in decent shape overall. That said, no team should ever get comfortable at edge rusher, and this is a deep draft class at the position. The Packers need to take one, potentially early. Inside linebacker, 4. On the roster, Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson. Lost, Chris Barnes. Unsigned, none. This is a solid top 4, even after losing Barnes. The Packers have the trusty vet, ascending first-rounder, do-it-all backup and core special teamer. Drafting a linebacker on day 3 makes a lot of sense in terms of developing out the position long-term and adding what could be another special teams weapon for Rich Bisaccia. Think speed here. Cornerback, 9. On the roster, Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, Eric Stokes, Kayshawn Nixon, Shamar Jean-Charles, Corey Ballantyne, Keandra Thomas, Benji Franklin, Tyrell Ford. Unsigned, none. This is another position where it looks good on paper, but it is so important that adding more depth can't be ignored. The Packers clearly believe they have 4 corners capable of starting, including Nixon, and Darnell Savage can play in the slot. The path to a roster spot might be difficult for a rookie, but competition behind the top 4 is necessary. Safety, 6. On the roster, Darnell Savage, Rudy Ford, Tarvarius Moore, Innis Gaines, Tariq Carpenter, James Wiggins. Unsigned, Adrian Amos, Dallin Levitt. Bringing back Ford and signing Moore provided some much-needed stability, and the Packers are going to move Savage back to safety to start 2023, so the cupboard isn't completely bare. But it wouldn't be hard to argue that the Packers need at least 1 new starter, and possibly 2, at safety. Can it be found in the draft? This isn't a great class at the position, and most of the free agent veterans are now signed. It's possible Amos will return on a cheap deal, and the Packers will spend a mid-round pick on a developmental option. This is clearly a position in transition, which could limit the high-end potential of the pass defense. Specialists, 4. On the roster, Pat O'Donnell, Jack Coco, Matt Orzek, Parker White. Unsigned, Mason Crosby. The Packers should be set at punter and long snapper, but kicker remains a mystery. Crosby is possibly too expensive, and probably too old, but White has never kicked in an NFL game. Adding a kicker through free agency or the draft is a must. The Packers, with 7-day 3 picks, should have plenty of chances to add competition at kicker later this month. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. See you next time.